Welcome to John S. Sports Channel and welcome to League One Week 8 predictions. And we're going to start with Bradford versus Huddersfield. Bradford, of course, they win, draw, win, lose. Last time out, a strange defeat against Doncaster Rovers away from home, 3-1. I say strange because that defence has been quite good. I've really been quite impressed by that. Although, they did let in 2 against Wimbledon at home, 3-2 win there. And they've not, I think in the last 6, they've only let in 0. Let's have a look. Once, and that was against Stoke City in the Carabao Cup. But I am impressed by that defence. I do think that... Whereas Wimbledon hog that back line and they keep a really strong defence, certainly again in that first game against Luton, Bradford seem to play that defence a little bit further forward than Wimbledon. Quite impressive that they can hold it without pulling back and sitting too deep. However, last time out, 3-1 defeat away to Doncaster Rovers. Will Swan getting the Bradford goal on 12 minutes to equalise, but of course Billy Sharp was the winning goal there on 44 minutes. We just look at the stats. 58% possession to Bradford. They played pretty well in this game. They only actually had one shot on target and it went in the net, and Doncaster, they were the home team. Didn't have as much possession, which is quite interesting, I think, when we get to Doncaster. But Bradford managed to allow them quite a few shots at target, which does suggest that back end of Bradford's is just starting to show a few little cracks and creaks now, isn't it? And then they're playing, of course, at home to Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield Town, of course, in 3rd place. Bradford in 5th. So they have actually been using that good defence quite well. Huddersfield win, draw, lose against Barnsley away in League One 3-1. And then win, 6-2 win at home to Newcastle under-21s in Virtue Trophy. That was actually quite clinical. Really good. Enjoyed it. And the 3-2 win at home to Peterborough. I really felt for Huddersfield, because Huddersfield, looking at the game, were actually really playing extremely well. But that Peterborough side was also not playing as poorly as what I think they expected them to play. 90 plus 8 minutes, second goal for Peterborough. I think that the result was never a question here. I think Huddersfield were always on top for me as we were looking in the watch along. I think it's going to be an interesting game because Huddersfield really they're on fire here. They're 3rd in the league and they are starting now, I think, to play some really good football. New front end, and I think that is starting to come together quite nicely. Bradford, perhaps slightly on the opposite direction. That defence is just waning a little bit for me. Bradford, Huddersfield, what are you lot saying? 1-2, 2-1. Well, this ain't going to go very far, is it? 3-3, 0-0. You really are everywhere and which way. I think it will be 2-1. I really do think it's going to be one of those 2-1 games. It's a case of which way will this go. It could go either way. So Bradford fans, Huddersfield fans, whichever way I go, it could be completely the opposite way here. Am I going to go with the home team? I'm going to just take note of that defence of Bradford's just not quite being as good as it was right at the beginning. I'm going to go Bradford 1, Huddersfield 2, and we'll move on to the second game. And the second game is Northampton versus Blackpool. Now, this would have been, if we'd have said this game was the first game in the season, what would you be thinking? You'd be thinking Blackpool are going to run this one. Blackpool have a really good side. They had a really good window. I think that Blackpool have a great side. Northampton not really improved a great deal when you consider the other teams around them. I know I've had a few comments from the Northampton fans saying we've done some really good recruitment. Yeah, but the teams around you have done at least an equal amount of improvements, and that's what I would have been thinking at the beginning of the season. However, Northampton seem to have been on fire lately, and they've really done quite well for me. They've certainly showed, from that beginning where they showed really good resolve at the back and really good ability to defend. And then all of a sudden they've actually won their last 2 games, Exeter and Orient. So what's their last 6? Draw, lose, win. The last 2, Exeter home 2-0 win and an away 1-0 win at Leyton Orient. Now Leyton Orient can play some great football. Exeter played really well. The goalkeeper against Rotherham was absolutely astonishing at the weekend. And yet, they won them 2-0. I think that this Northampton side can have some really good flourishes now and again. At home, don't write them off. Blackpool, well, yeah, what's gone wrong there? Please do like and subscribe. And Blackpool fans, tell me what's gone wrong. Lose, win, lose, draw. But that last time out, well, let's look at the last 2. Plymouth Argyle away defeat 1-0, but Plymouth have some absolutely cracking championship players there, and 1-0 win, 1-0 defeat away is actually not too scabby, is it? And a Bolton home draw 1-1. Bolton can indeed play some damn good football, and they've got some. They build from the play from the back, and they usually get several shots off on goal, and to reduce them to just 1 goal. And for you to score against them is actually quite good. I think that at home a 1-1 draw to Bolton was reasonable. Northampton against Leyton Orient, if we just have a quick look at their win against Leyton Orient, Northampton played well with the ball. They allowed Leyton Orient to have the ball, but they didn't allow them to get too close to goal. Their defensive attitude was good. They didn't sit back, Northampton, all the way back so that they never got a shot on goal. They actually have got, I think, about 8 shots at target and 4 on target. So they did really well, Northampton. Blackpool, well, this is one of those teams it's a should-be side, isn't it? They should be playing better. They should be getting better results. That Blackpool Bolton 1 game, though, they allowed 73% possession to Bolton, but we'd expect that, wouldn't we? They keep the ball, they play from the back, and then just take you on by surprise. 19 shots for Bolton, 4 on target. Again, they didn't seem to shoot at target. They weren't clinical enough. Once again. I keep saying that every week, and I will while ever they're doing it. 7 shots for Blackpool, though, out of 28% possession was pretty good. 2 on target and 1 in the net. This side can, if they can just control the ball and keep the ball a little bit more, they could actually do quite well. Look, Blackpool, 646 passes. Bolton 646 passes. They were absolutely brilliant when they kept the ball. That's why they had 73% possession. You could see it this is one of the games where stats actually do work. 247 passes for Blackpool, and you can see how when they had the ball, they weren't actually too scabby, and they were actually quite good for that 24% possession. I think that this is going to be an interesting game. What do you think? You think 1-2, 0-0, 0-0 and 2-1. Yeah, another one of those where you lot don't know what the hell's going to happen. And I can see where you're coming from. Northampton have been pulling out a couple of surprises, a couple of really decent performances, and they've not actually been too bad with the recruitment in the last few weeks. So I'm actually quite surprised by them. Blackpool should be playing better, absolutely. Will they turn it around this week? I think it's either going to be a Blackpool win or a draw. And with that in mind, I'm actually going to go for a score on my own. I'm going to go for Northampton 1, Blackpool 1, and we'll move on to Wimbledon versus my team, Rotherham United. And there's a reason why this is going to be interesting, not only because it's my team, but Wimbledon. That first game, wasn't it amazing? Absolutely amazing. They lost it against Luton, but yeah, in the last 5 minutes, was it? And even that was an own goal. So it was an absolutely astonishing game. Parked their bus right on the very back byline, and they almost did it. And they did the same for the next 2 or 3 games, I think it was. And I'm thinking, well, they've got a damn good defence, but they don't look like scoring. And all of a sudden, I think they just started scoring. They like 2 or 3 goals, and you're thinking, this team actually can score. They can actually shoot. If they can defend like that and constantly and consistently fire shots off at goal, this team could be quite easily surprising people and being mid-table, just like some of your comments from Wimbledon fans have been saying. They even had a couple of decent wins, didn't they? 15th place Wimbledon against 17th place Rotherham United. They have had some really good wins. Lose, win, lose, 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 lose. The last 4 defeats in a row there. The last win was against Barnsley at home, 2-0. And that was a really good win, guys. It really was. And they've been showing an ability to not only defend but attack really well. However, the middle section seems to be like pulling them off. Now you have to remember that Wimbledon against Bolton, 2 red cards, one for Marcus Brown, one for Joe Lewis, and they lost 3-0. Wimbledon 39%. Well, I don't think the possession figures and stats really fare very well here. I think looking at the game, Bolton did run it. They deserved to run it. They were at home. We expected them to run it, didn't we, from minute 1, and they did. Wimbledon did their best to try and to stop them from getting in, but it just didn't work. This is one of those games. One of the few games I think that I've seen Wimbledon defence not be very good at all. 2 shots on target for Wimbledon, not in the net. I think Wimbledon expected this once the game had started. I think most of us expected Bolton to be able to win this one. They are very much let's keep the ball, pass it well. Bolton didn't pass it as well as what I thought they would do. There were a few miss passes, and Wimbledon didn't quite make them pay for it, which is why I say the middle of the game play for Wimbledon seems to be a little bit missing, making the most of when the opposition make errors like Bolton did, just occasionally. So that's the story of that game. Rotherham United against Exeter. I mean, the Exeter goalkeeper, go and have a look at the antics of this guy. The guy was absolutely on fire. They only had 1 shot, I think, all on target all game. Exeter. Rotherham had they had several. They must have had at least half a dozen at target, bang, straight at. I mean, 1 or 2 of them were at top corner, and the guy made some acrobatic saves. Exeter's goalkeeper kept them in this. It could have been 3-4-0 this to Rotherham. It was just 1-0. Rotherham really did run this one really, really well. And on a different day with a different goalkeeper in the opposition there, this would have been 3 or 4-0. The score line makes people, and I've seen people, you lot doing your little videos, saying, it's only 1-0. They should have really been able to beat Exeter a bit more than that. Hey, it would have been had it not been for the Exeter goalkeeper. This side actually was playing really well, even though it's got lots of injuries and actually sustained another 2 injuries during that game. I think Atet was taken off injured as well. So it's a Rotherham side that's changed, started to do really well, started to play well, started to get the ball into a striking opportunity position. They're playing against all these injuries. That is my worry there. But Wimbledon have got 2 red cards, and they're not quite firing as well as they did in the first half. So this is 2 teams, 15th and 17th, who are really quite stuck at the minute. I think that Wimbledon, though, are slightly on the downward path. Rotherham is slightly on the upward path, even though they've had another couple of injuries last game out. What are you saying? 1-0 to Wimbledon, 2-0 to Wimbledon, 1-2 and 0-1. You really are not knowing where this one's going. I just want to have another look at the goal situation of these two teams. You see, Wimbledon, they lost 5-1 at home in the Virtue Trophy to Stevenage, lost 3-0 to Bolton, 3-2 defeat to Bradford. They are capable of letting goals in now in the last few games, which they weren't showing that they would be able to. They would do in the first couple of games. But like I said, they too seem to have just had a hiccup at the back, just like Bradford did. Whereas Rotherham, it's always like 1-0, 2-1. It's the odd goal between them, and there's very. The last time they lost by 3 goals was Cardiff on the 8th August the 16th, and Cardiff were they could have won 3 or 4 or 5. They could have won 4 or 5-0 on that game. But on the whole, their defence has really, really tightened up. They made some good acquisitions in defence. The tactics seem to be paying off in defence. I think that I will be going. I think we'll be going with a Rotherham win, but I'm not quite sure whether Wimbledon will score. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's go Wimbledon 1, Rotherham 2. And we'll move on to Barnsley versus Reading. Now, Barnsley in 6th, Reading in 20th. Barnsley draw, win, lose against Wimbledon away. That was a shocker, of course, 2-0. And then win against Rotherham 2-1 at home, win against Huddersfield 3-1. That, to me, was a turning point. Barnsley have been showing that they might be able to do something here. Of course, Huddersfield had a red card for Owen Goodman. I don't think that's going to make any difference to that Bradford game whatsoever. But the Barnsley side, I don't think really looked back from the start in this game. They really did run this game very, very well, making sure that Huddersfield's shots were just far enough out, with just enough defenders in the middle of the striker and the goal to make it quite difficult to get a shot on target. Look, Huddersfield, I think, on the whole had more shots, but on target, I think they only had about 1 on target. Barnsley had quite a lot on target as a percentage of what shots they made. And I was quite impressed by the clinical abilities, and the passing was brilliant. Barnsley's passing was really, really good. It was some of the best passing of the weekend came from Barnsley. I was really, really impressed. What were you thinking, Barnsley? Reading 2-0, 3-2, 2-0 and 3-0. And that's because Reading lose, draw, win, lose. Virtue Trophy we can't count, but the Port Vale was the last league game, 1-0 at home win. Reading had Noel Hunt sent off on 51 minutes there, and I think that Reading struggled to take control over this game. Port Vale can play real excellent football. They were unlucky not to get a draw, at least against Rotherham, for instance, in that first game. And they keep being unfortunate, don't they? They keep playing in such a way. They should have got a point there at least. And they keep just losing. Port Vale just keep losing those points when they should have won them. And again here, they lost it. But I think that Port Vale almost deserved. Well, yeah, I think they deserved a draw here. But Reading managed to hold on after that red card. And they deservedly, I think, just about deservedly got that win. It was pretty even, to be quite honest, but they just about deserved the win. And again, Port Vale went away disheartened. So yeah, like I said, 2-0, 3-2, 2-0, 3-0 is what you're saying. I think that this Barnsley side is firing at the minute, and the confidence levels after a Rotherham and a Huddersfield win. We had two local clubs they've beaten conservatively. I think that their confidence will be growing. I think going to be Barnsley 3, Reading 0, and that's the first 0 I've got. That's the first clean sheet as we go into Burton versus Lincoln. Burton haven't been scoring a great deal. Oh, I don't think they've been really letting in a great deal. I mean, Luton Town last defeat was at home 3-0 to Luton Town, but it's Luton Town, some good upper championship players in there. Burton Albion 21st, Lincoln in 8th. Draw, lose, win against Liverpool under 21s 2-0 in the Virtue Trophy doesn't count. That last game though for Burton 0, Luton 3. And they actually did rather well against a really strong Luton side, and I think you feel sorry for them. They did try their best, and they actually did play some good football. They didn't give up. They didn't sit back deep and hope that they just could get away with a 0-0 draw. They actually did try, and it was a good game of football. But they're playing Lincoln, and Lincoln are Burton 28th, Lincoln 8th. It does show what they're doing. Win, draw. Oh, this is going to be a win then, isn't it? Last time out 2-2 for Lincoln against Wigan. Wigan excellent, of course. Wigan got a 68-minute red card for Christian Sadie, and a 77-minute red card for Lincoln City for Rob Street. So they aren't. They have been known to be a little bit tough, both of those sides, and we're trying to assert their effectiveness on this game, and they were both hammering those shots out throughout the game. This was a good upper half game of football. I enjoyed it. Really good 2-2 draw, and actually this is the sort of advertisement for League One that I like. 14 shots for Wigan, 12 for Lincoln City, 2-2. It was probably and one red card each. It was probably a deserved result. Wigan will be slightly more disappointed because Wigan kept the ball a little bit more better in that their passing was more clinical. Lincoln had a few more blips with their with the gameplay and passes that didn't quite come off and tackles that didn't quite work. So it's Burton Lincoln. What are you thinking? 1-1, 0-1, 2-2, 0-2. I think this one is going to be very, very close. I don't think there's going to be too many goals in this one. I'm going to go with Burton 0, Lincoln 1, and we go to Exeter versus Port Vale. Now, of course, Exeter, last time out, lost to Rotherham United. They've been last 6 were lose, win, lose. So they're not doing too bad. Exeter 13th, but Port Vale in 23rd. And Port Vale, I'm going to call this the nearly team. They've been playing so many bloody good bits of games, like 50, 60 minutes worth, 45 minutes worth. And they, like at Rotherham, in the first game, they should have at least drawn that, possibly even won it in the second half. They were spanking hot, and they have been playing like that. But Exeter, for me, have been, as you can see, like the last 2 games. Peterborough 3-0 win at home, Rotherham 1-0 defeat away. That Rotherham game, though, they actually played rather good, and we expected them to play well. They had 61% possession at Exeter. And their goalkeeper was just phenomenal. Okay, they weren't very good up front. They only had 1 shot on target all game, and I seem to remember that from when we were watching it on the watch along. Didn't really ever get into that final third. They had a couple of long shots that didn't really make. I mean, yeah, they came close once or twice, but not really. It got in the net, didn't it? But it was offside. Nearly got a 1-1 draw, bar for the flag from the linesman. I think that they might have been disappointed that they didn't get in to have more shots on target, seeing as the goalkeeper was so flaming brilliant. Port Vale, though, they're playing Port Vale. Just the nearly boys, lose, win, lose. They've actually got the same 6 results in the same order as Exeter. This could be frighteningly close, couldn't it? 13th versus 23rd, though, so you wouldn't expect it to be that close, would you? However, let's just look at, Leyton Orient, the trophy game 2 games ago, win against Leeds United 4-1. Well, Leeds United under 21s. And they're usually sort of like League One standard. Leyton Orient was their last game. Port Vale 2, Orient 3. And again, this was just, I mean, you really felt for them. Again, the Nearly boys, 90 plus 5 minutes late, and Orient won this one. It was 2-2 all the way through. And I kept seeing the score going like this, backwards, forwards. And then it's going to finish a draw. And then right at the last minute, 90 plus 5, late and Orient win it. Realistically, Port Vale were, apart from Orient's passing was better, but I think Port Vale were slightly the better team here. And again, they lost it. And I'm just thinking, when is this going to end? When is Port Vale going to actually manage to win one? But the Exeter goalkeeper, that has to be the man of the match for me in the Rotherham defeat for them. And I can't see Exeter, I just can't see Exeter not winning it. Let's see what you're saying. 2-1 to Exeter. It's Exeter Vale. 2-1, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. I'm going to go Exeter 2, Vale 1, and quickly move on, because that's actually a really difficult one to look at, because I could see Vale doing this. I can see Vale overturning this and possibly being a sort of 1-0 win to Vale. I don't think they're going to get past that goalkeeper too many times, but they might be able to hold off Exeter from the front, because they're not that clinical up front. 1-0 to Vale, 2-1 to Exeter. I'll go 2-1 Exeter. Orient versus Bolton next, and Orient Bolton. This is one of those. This is one of those games. Before the season started again, you'd be thinking both of these teams will be in the top 10, wouldn't they? It's Orient in 12th, Bolton in 10th. Oh, nearly correct there, aren't we? Let's just go with Leighton Orient. Of course, draw, win, lose, win. Well, we did say they won against Port Vale last time out. 90 plus 5th minute winner. Did they deserve it? Well, no, they not really. I really think that this was more even than you think. Orient had the better passing, like I said, but I think realistically they got away with that. And the win against Rotherham, the game before, that was Bolton, wasn't it, for Bolton? That one for them was probably about even as well. It was 1-0 to Bolton, but they had a red card for Gale on 45 plus 2. Actually, it got stronger when they went one man down. The last game for Bolton was Wimbledon, 3-0 at home. Wimbledon having 2 red cards there, and Bolton really ran this one all the way through, didn't they? 20 odd shots at target, a hell of a lot of them on target. They actually, for a change, got a lot of the shots were actually on target. 22 at target, 8 on target. They're starting to get more and more on target now, which is, I've been saying that's what they needed to do. They were constantly getting lots of shots, but not enough at target. This game they did it. Shows what happens. 3-0. So what are you saying? You're saying it's Leighton Orient Bolton 1-2, 1-1, 1-1, 2-3. I can see this Leighton Orient side can actually score. They can actually score. I think that they've been doing well in the last 2 games as well, scoring 6 in their last 2 games. I'm going to actually go with one of you. I'm actually going to go with Leighton Orient 2, Bolton 3. Let's see if that one comes off. I might even have a bet on that one. And we'll move on to the next one, which is Luton, Plymouth. Yeah, the old championship game here. So Luton in 7th, Plymouth in 18th. Luton lose, win. 4. They won the last 2 games. 3-0 against away to Burton. 4-1 at home to Barnet in the trophy. And then the last 2 games for Plymouth, also 2 wins. 2-0 to Cheltenham at home and 4-2 to Stockport at home. You can see the differences here. I think that this Luton side has a very good defensive record indeed. The Plymouth side has a poor defensive record. 3rd game ago, they lost 4-0 away to Cardiff. And Cardiff are top of the league, but I think that this Plymouth side just has a bit of a leaky defence still, even after the transfers. What are you saying? 1-0, 3-1, 4-2 and 2-1. I just think that this defence from Luton is actually quite good, but it does let goals in occasionally. We're going to go with Luton 3, Plymouth 1, and we'll move to our friend Roy's side, which is Mansfield Town versus Stevenage. Now Mansfield, a bit up and down, haven't they? Win, lose, draw, lose. Last time out, a defeat to Wycombe Wanderers away 2-0. Mansfield, really, we kept going into this in our watch along. They were being quite disappointed. They were the better passers. They were more clinical in their passing. Didn't make enough of the times when Wycombe didn't quite pass properly, or they didn't tackle well enough, or they just lost. See, Wycombe kept losing the ball, but then Mansfield would grab the ball and then lose it back again. Both of these teams were equally wrong for doing that. Both of them were quite not quite getting that second ball quite often enough for me. I thought this should have been a draw. Wycombe 2, Mansfield 0. I thought that really was going to be a draw, but Mansfield didn't really play. They've been playing a few games recently, not really hitting it as well as they have in periods. Exeter win, Blackpool win, and then an Orient win followed by lose, draw, lose. Stevenage on the other hand, so it's Mansfield 11, Stevenage 4th, and Stevenage started really strong. And they've been strong all the way through. Lose, win, lose, win. The first loss there, the lost 6 games ago was Charlton, though, in the Carabao Cup 3-1. So, they're playing a championship club, aren't they? The last win was 5-1 away to Wimbledon in the Virtue Trophy. And it shows this side can actually, they can play some good football. Wycombe was the last league game. Stevenage 1, Wycombe 0. The only thing that I would say there is that they're the home side and they allowed Wycombe to run this game quite significantly, but Wycombe kept it in their half most of the time. No shots are on target at all for Wycombe. So the Stevenage defence let them keep the ball while they're in their own half. And when they had the ball, they did well enough to get a ball in the net. 5 shots on target for Stevenage, none for Wycombe. That's the basic storyline from that game. What are you saying? 1-1, 0-1, 0-2, 0-2. I think Mansfield might be able to get something here. They've had a couple of games, poor games. They have got a striker in, I think. So I think that we should be seeing a bit of a change in form at some point. They've been playing a little bit sluggish. Stevenage, I think, are very good. They are away from home. It's either going to be a Stevenage 2-0 or you might see a sort of a more even game here. I'm going to go with an even game. I'm going to go with Mansfield 1, Stevenage 1, and we'll move to Peterborough in 24th versus Wycombe in 19th. So you wouldn't have thought this was going to be a bottom half game, would you? You'd think Wycombe would have been capable of rebuilding that squad. Peterborough lose, draw against Bradford, lose. 3-2 defeat to Huddersfield. They actually did play some good football. Can they turn it around? Some people are thinking they can. Peterborough 24th, it's against Wycombe Wanderers. Lose, draw, lose. Win against Mansfield 2-0. But like I said, that should really have been a draw. We've already gone through the Huddersfield game, a lot more even than what we thought than what we thought it would be there. Although Huddersfield, I think, realistically knew what the result was quite soon. I think they were always going to win it. It's just that Peterborough managed to not lose heart and keep attacking. And because they're at home, I think that's going to make a big difference here. Is it enough for them to get a point or two out of this one? 0-1, 2-2, 1-0, 1-1 is what you're saying. I think you're probably about right. I think that Peterborough are just about getting to grips with being able to cope with going behind and actually keeping in the game. and I think that will mean that they'll get 1 or 2 1 points first, and then after they start getting a couple of draws, that confidence starts to come back, and they might start winning a few. They should do, because this is a good side. It's not got worse from last season, and they were pretty good last season with their new style of play. I'm going to go with Peterborough 1, Wycombe 1, and we'll move to Stockport versus Cardiff. Stockport in 9th, Cardiff in 1st. And the reason why I say that is because Stockport have been playing some brilliant football, haven't they? 5-3 winners in the trophy against Wolverhampton Wanderers. 5-3 winners at home. Wow. Lose, win, lose, draw, that win, and then Plymouth Argyle defeat 4-2 away for Stockport. I thought it was quite surprising, but you have to look at the game to realise that actually Stockport weren't out of this one, and I think 4-2 was a little bit it was a little bit flattering for Plymouth, really. I think this one almost would have been one for a Stockport 2-1 win, or at least a draw. They would have been absolutely gutted it was a 4-2 defeat. And I think that they played really well. And that side, on the whole, has been playing some damn good football. A little bit unfortunate last time out. And Cardiff, well, they too played Plymouth last time. Both of these sides played Plymouth last time out, believe it or not. Stockport County lost 4-2 away at Plymouth, and then Cardiff won 4-0 at home to Plymouth. So that game, well, let's see what Cardiff did here. They ran this game. They absolutely ran it. Was this a sign of things to come? I think that we can actually... We can look at this quite well, because I think that these two teams, Cardiff and Plymouth, were actually hammer and tongs at each other. I think that Plymouth were unfortunate not to get more shots off, but the Cardiff defence did really well here, and I think we can take that one into the what you're saying here. Stockport Cardiff 0-1, 1-0, 1-1 and 0-2. I'm going to go with it's 1 or 2 scores. I'm going to go Stockport 0, Cardiff 2. 1-0, 2-0 I think there. I think Stockport could turn that round, but for me, that Cardiff side, they're first for a reason. And that's the where we'll go with that one. Last game then, Wigan versus Doncaster, and Wigan in 14th, Doncaster in a surprise 2nd, and Wigan Athletic, I put them in the top 6. They are actually 14th. They have a good side, and they're playing really well. Lose, draw, win, draw, lose, draw. I think their defence is a little bit iffy at the minute. The last game was included a Christian Sadie sending off on 68 minutes for Wigan, and I think that's going to be quite a task for them to get over. Lincoln 2, Wigan 2. Wigan, I think this was probably a good result. 2-2 was probably about right. If any team was slightly ahead of this one, it's very difficult to say. I mean, probably Wigan on a passing ability, but this was a really tight game for me. Bradford was Doncaster's last game, 3-1 home win. And after that Molyneux goal for Doncaster, I think realistically the Doncaster team almost knew, even though Bradford equalised, I think that Doncaster had the edge all the way through this one, and that's what I'm seeing in these games. They're doing just enough to win the games, and that seems to be what Doncaster are doing. And I tell you what, it's working, because if you look at Doncaster, lose, win, 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 win. You have to think that Doncaster side has to be the favourites here, doesn't it? What are you saying? 3-3, 1-2, 2-1 and 1-2. I think that this Wigan side, they would. And with that red card, I think I'm going to play a joker here. I'm going to go Wigan 1, Doncaster 3. Thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe, and give me your comments down below, and I'll give you another prediction video next week and a watch along at the weekend. Please do like and subscribe.